Week 8 is in the books, and I'm not even supposed to be here. I should be coaching a baseball game right now. But, KJ, the show must go on. I rushed here from baseball practice, and here we are to talk about Week 8, right?
Week 8, baby.
Oh, man, I cannot wait to get into this. And I don't want to tell you why. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because I am a St. Louis Battlehawks fan, and it turns out we had a pretty good Week 8. Would you say?
That's very true.
I kind of feel like we had a pretty good Week 8. So I guess we'll talk about it. As soon as we get everybody here, Daddy Ed's doing a little bit. Mike Palco just got here, so let's kick it off.
And that's the bottom line. Want a war, you're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Week 8 is in the books, boys. I just couldn't stay away. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Full disclosure. Because I was planning on coaching a baseball game tonight, my preparation is going to be a little weak for the show. So as much as I hate playing this, boys, this is what we're going to need from you guys tonight.
80, what you going to do today?
I got my A game.
You got your A game?
A game?
He got his A game.
We're going to need your A game. All right? You're going to have to pick up the slack for me. Of course, I watched every game, as I do every weekend, but my preparation was a little different because I thought I was just going to be rewatching the show and not being a part of it. But baseball practice got over. I hauled tail over here, scared the crap out of Big Daddy when he was just sitting there, popped on, and here we are. Can't miss it. But I have a feeling next Wednesday will not get canceled, so you guys will be on your own for sure. Mike, did you enjoy the games this weekend as much as I did?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see. There's one I didn't get to see due to scheduling, but there was, one that was happening at the same time as the Michigan Panther game. I don't know what game that was. I think it was another big one out there, but that was, I was disappointed. I really wanted to watch that game, but Michigan took care of business against Houston.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
You do what I did, and you watch, in my case, St. Louis Birmingham on the big TV, and you get your phone out and you go to the UFL.com, scores, and hit the other game, In my case, Michigan-Houston, I sat there watching Michigan-Houston on silent on my phone while I was watching St. Louis and Birmingham on the other TV.
Now, do they play the live game on UFL?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that. So viewers watching,
it's the first like 15, 20 minutes or something, Eric, I think.
Yeah, you totally dropped the ball, man.
Oh, I didn't know that was an option. So that'd be nice to know.
And you call yourself a fan.
You would think somebody of my advanced age compared to you, Mike, would be the one asking you how the hell you do something.
Well, I had to record the Michigan Panther game now. I was at a prospect camp. So I had to go back and watch. And
did you check the score before you watched it?
Of course I did.
You cheater.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sitting there on the football field. All right, how are the Panthers doing? So I couldn't help myself. I can't. There's no way. I have to know. And then I just watched back, and looks like Danny Etling had a great day. And all the Etling naysayers out there, take a load of that. 3 touchdown passes. So I was always a believer in at Danny Etling. I really was. So I know Nolan prepped the guys. We all like Bryce Perkins, don't get me wrong, but to say that Danny Etling wasn't a serviceable quarterback, I would just laugh at that. Etling is a fantastic quarterback. He may even be the guy next year. If Bryce Perkins gets plucked back into the NFL, who knows? It might be Danny Etling leading the team. Etling also might be able to fill in on an NFL roster. We don't know. So Michigan Panther fans out there, we haven't.
Mike, take a breath. I've got to yell at Ed right now. He cannot stand to not be in a certain position.
That's right.
On the screen.
I naturally always look to the middle. See, so if I switch with you, it looks like I'm just yeah, whatever.
I left it on purpose because I thought when Ed comes back, he's going to pop into my spot up on the top right of the screen as I'm looking at it, and it's going to drive him insane.
Absolutely insane.
And I can't believe it took you about 15 seconds to boot me off and then bring me back on to get it all positioned the way you want it.
I was trying to be diplomatic about it.
Guys, we can't screw around tonight. We've got to get to the games. I can't
get to it because we got some big conversations in the second hour.
Yeah, we got to get to these games. Get us started.
Can't wait.
Get us started. Let's go.
Well, we got to welcome some people in tonight. First, we got John, Big Mike, Robert.
What's up, everybody?
But let's get things rolling. Let's start off with the Friday night game. Memphis at San Antonio, courtesy of the UFL. Here is the highlights.
180. What's that?
Four-man defensive front. They rush those 4. Hogan looking to the sideline. Intercepted. Down the sideline. Cameron Dantzler. It's a pick 6. And the Showboats grab the lead.
180. What's that?
First and 10. Pass number 1. Stilianos going deep. Looking at man open. He's got it. Stilianos does connect. It's high school all over again. The former high school quarterback to D. Anderson for 6. What a throw by Steven Stilianos. Not being on the field a lot, right? That's exactly. It's his second start of the year. And Mangle's punt is blocked. The punt is blocked. And the Brahmas are going to... Second attempt. Williams looking to the end zone. Caught by Kai Loxley. 24. Here it is. Game on the line. Hogan to throw. Looking. Pressure comes. Hogan staying alive with a flag down. Throwing for the end zone. Batted away. The pass is incomplete. And Memphis with a 24-22 lead.
Eric, it was only fitting that you started off with that Minnesota Viking flavor, because I know more than go to the first highlights of the day, and there's an ex-Minnesota Viking getting a pick six in Dantzler. So,
You know, let's just put the Minnesota Viking stuff to bed. But I will tell you one thing. I can name, at least 4 or 5 things that, and I'm an NFL fan, I am, but I can name at least 4 or 5 things that the UFL does better. I love me some shootout. I love it. I love the shootout.
Oh yeah, the overtime shootout. It's good. I like it.
I love the shootout. I love the technology on the first downs. I love the reviews. I love the coach's super challenge. I mean, there's just, to me, because there's strategy behind the super challenge. Some coaches have figured it out, and some coaches just aren't very good at it. But there are strategies to the super challenge. I mean, there's just so many things that if the NFL had, I'd be like, now this is good. And the shootout is definitely one of them. It made a game of 2 1-6 teams that much more entertaining to finish it off with a shootout like that.
And I had a feeling too with these 1-6 teams too that this would be a good football game. We've seen in the NFL too where and this goes back to 2009 where the both the Lions and the Browns were 1 win, and it was in Detroit. The game was blacked out. Like you couldn't watch it. You can go back on YouTube and watch it, but the final score of that game was 38-37. I mean, it was a shootout. So just whenever you see a low scoring matchup, like, you should still tune in. You'll get a good football game.
Mike, don't take this the wrong way, but I will not be going back to YouTube to watch that game.
Oh, I have. Hey, there's reason to. That's the Matthew Stafford game where he came in and played hurt with that separated shoulder. Their winning touchdown pass.
So Eric, I don't know why I need to pop this up on the screen other than to just say I'm keeping it real. But your favorite guy, John David, had to post a message when I come on.
Oh, God.
Real boss.
Hey, Ed, real quick, do we have the graphic for the picks from last week available?
No.
Oh, I mean, I can't remember what my picks were. I know I picked Memphis, but
I can tell you.
Who picked San Antonio here?
I can tell you that Eric and I went 4-0, and you and KJ went 2-2.
Ooh. I had to mix it up. I can't keep making.
I sent those to Ed, so that's actually probably pretty for me to pull up.
In fact,
there it is, right there. Look at that.
Back in the message history.
In fact, yours truly 12-0 the last 3 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, getting back to the Memphis San Antonio game, James Larson made a point of talking to Coach Turner about, the only 2 overtime games this year has both been Memphis, and he's pulled out both of them and asked Coach Turner to comment. This is what he had to say, courtesy of the UFL.
Sorry. This team has now won a couple of games in overtime. And what is it about these, closing out games in late game situations like this, especially, when it comes down to these 2-point plays? It's tough. How do you guys get it done in the end?
Yeah, I think, if you just look at it, like when you win games like that, what is that like? That's like winning a fight in the 12th round or the 15th round, right? So there's no question in my mind. Again, I'm not embellishing. I think we have one of the toughest teams in this league. Man for man, I think we have probably the toughest team in this league. And, I wouldn't, if you told me I could pick any team I wanted right now, I would take this team. And it's not because I have to go spend the next 2 weeks with them. I probably won't be the head coach next year. I have no idea. I really don't care right now. I just care about the guys in that room, and I really respect the effort. I mean, the way we practiced last week, it's unbelievable. And it's not leadership, okay? It's leadership from them. I'll take no credit for it. We have the right character guys in the building. And so when you're winning games like that, we beat a good Birmingham team. This team we played tonight is a good football team. Without question, it's a good football.
Is it just me, or do you just get major, Bill Parcells Moxie vibes from Coach, man? He just doesn't care. I love it.
I do too.
There's something to be said for just telling it like it is.
Right? Oh my goodness.
I think he's awesome for this league.
He is awesome.
I think I think he'll get another crack. In all honesty, I think he'll get a full season under his wing, or let's see how it goes for him. And his quotes are awesome. I love hearing from him. He's like an old school, really we got some old school coaching in this league. I think what the football world needs is to see that old school coaching it's a cool deal, especially if you got guys that are motivators out there. A lot of these coaches in the UFL are motivators, so I love it. I'm all for these guys.
So I'm gonna play the post-game presser of Coach Pardee, and when we come back from his comments, courtesy of the UFL, I'd like to have a little roundtable discussion.
This one really is a difficult, loss. I'm proud of our guys and the effort that they played with. This is a game that really comes down to kind of like it has in weeks past, but most notably, we made one too many mistakes, and kind of what I mentioned last week with the 5 to 6 plays a game are really the ones that come down to have a big impact on the outcome. I think that that in a lot of ways held up with us. Obviously it all starts with myself and our coaching staff, and we need to improve and improve for the players. And I do want to say this. I'm really proud of our team. We had multiple guys throughout the course of the game that were fighting and scratching and clawing metaphorically until the very end. And I think we showed a lot of grit and perseverance. And this is one that unfortunately we wish we would have had back, just in a couple different areas. But I'm proud of our team.
So
seems normal to me.
I have nothing bad to. I'm sure Coach Pardee is a hell of a guy, and you can tell by the way he talks about his team that he's a genuine guy. But I don't know, am I wrong as a head coach? Sometimes when we're losing, I'd like my head coach to get pissed off. Empty a few garbage cans or do something. But to come on every week and just say, "Oh, I love my guys," and
I'm proud of the team.
It kind of rings hollow after a while. What do you guys think?
I understand what you're getting at, Ed. I think there's a balance for sure that you have to have. I think, in my experience, seeing everybody from Nick Saban to your Joe Paternos or whatever from way back in the day, like personalities are different between coaches, but I think the guys that are the silent, calm, compelled guys usually have done, if you never see them get angry in the game, usually their teams have established enough culture within it that the guys are literally critiquing themselves on the sidelines. You've got your Peyton Mannings, to be kind of a quasi metaphor, a guy that'll go to the bench and literally pick up the iPad immediately to see what he's doing wrong without being prompted to do that by the coach or any positional coach. So I think obviously the culture has to beget a calm, cool-headed, collected coach. To your point, I don't think you could be the chippy, I'm your best friend all the time, unless the atmosphere is established and the understanding is there that, hey, I expect you to hold yourself accountable. And when you come off the field after a shitty series or whatever, excuse my French,
gotta watch it.
You do your own part to spot check yourself and see where you went wrong. If I'm not the coach myself, I'm not having to get in and grill you myself.
Well, I agree. But here's the deal. Week 2, week 3, it was a tough game. The guys really fought hard. Okay. Week 8, these guys are professionals. Okay. I think we're past the 6th grade Pop Warner football rubbing your back. Everybody, they're not, something ain't clicking. I'm not seeing guys on the sidelines grabbing face masks and bringing them in like, what the hell are we doing here? I mean, San Antonio to me has been a team all year long that I cannot figure out. I mean, Can somebody tell me, was there a huge roster turnover for San Antonio? A couple guys on defense were gone. Offense still had, I mean, they brought in Kellen Mond and thought, I even thought, Mond should be okay. And I actually thought he was getting it by about week 3 or 4. They still had Kirkland, still had McFarland. I mean, they still had a lot of the pieces on the offense too. This was a team that went to the championship last year. And they have completely, for whatever reason, they have completely just lost it, went backwards. I mean, nothing burger type stuff. I don't understand it. Listen, I understand there's different coaching philosophies, but like Ed said, there's times where you just got to kick some garbage cans around, some water bottles and water coolers have to pay because something is not registering with this San Antonio team. It's just not. Every single week it's, we talk about the 5 or 6 plays that we could have made. Holy crap, man. Like, we got to make them. There's got to come a time. These are professionals. Well, they're not NFL players. I don't care. They're professionals. They're being paid to play football.
Right.
We can't keep making the same excuses over and over and over again. And if you looked at the bottom line page this week, man, they've been signing guys left and right. Well, what is that going to do for them now? I don't know. Is there an advantage? Maybe there's an advantage to have them under contract this year, so maybe they get them next year, whatever the case may be. But I think they've signed 4 or 5 players this week. Well, okay. Why weren't we doing that 4 or 5 weeks ago? Like, if we're just every week, we're the party is saying the same thing when we play. Guys are clawing and scratching metaphorically, and they're doing this and doing. No, they're not. They're losing football games.
I think to your point, Eric, I would say if we look back over the past weeks that they played, I think the game against Birmingham, for instance, that's definitely what I would say. You don't come into the post-game pressers saying that type of stuff because they got raked over the coals that week. Well, they probably played, plenty of errors that you could point out and chisel down to. I mean, the scoreboard at least reflects a close game, for better or for worse. So, I mean, I think contextually there's situations where more of that may be warranted or justifiable than others. But I don't disagree with y'all to say that, we haven't seen much real greater frustration coming visually from Party.
Yeah, I've learned this a long time ago, though. You know what a close game is?
Game you should have won.
It's still a loss.
That's true.
I mean, it's still a loss.
No,
like Bill
right.
Parcells, you are what your record says you are. I don't care how close the games were. I don't. Oh, my guys are fighting. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's fighting. Everybody's playing hard. But you are what your record says you are. I don't understand why they're 1-7, but they're 1-7. To me, that no matter what happens, they are again, shockingly, the worst team in the UFL this year, bar none, and I don't understand it. Mike, make it make sense to me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some championship expectations in the camp of the Brahmas here. Now, with the departure of Wade Phillips, who knows what's going to happen? I expect him to be stepping away, and then I'm expecting this San Antonio job to be open. So who could be the next coach that steps in? Will they go get an experienced guy? Will it be an former NFL coaching name that's out there that's looking for work possibly to see an opportunity to coach in San Antonio? I think that there's a big fish out there. There's some big fish out there that I think that want to get back in the coaching, and I think this would be a good spot to come back in the UFL. A lot of momentum behind the league, so cool to see hear the coaches mic'd up. So that's always a good thing for the league. But yeah, I mean, as far as the coach speak kind of deal, I mean, he's young, he's playing things safe, so that's understood with that, what he's doing. So he's not going to be brash or do anything to go after the players. So he's just being a good coach, and just sometimes we want to see, like you said too, just a little more out of that, like A little more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's good. It's good you bring that up, Mike. I think because if we consider contextually everything this team has gone through since the start of the season, the instability has been a trickle down effect from the top down, so to speak, with coaching and instability. Or we even don't. I'd say as fans probably don't know all the specifics down to the granular level, but we know enough to know. Okay, if you don't have cohesion amongst your own coaching staff, that just is going to automatically negatively affect the players and what the final product you see on the field. And that's not an excuse; it's just a matter of mediation.
But Ed, as I ask you this, you're hiring for a team, expansion UFL team, and I'm giving you two choices because, as Mike said, and I think maybe KJ alluded to, these guys are coaching to potentially get jobs somewhere else. Coach Barlow, East Tennessee State takes a bunch of guys with him, whatever. DC still managed to be 6-2. If I'm asking you, I'll give you two names, and you're doing the hiring, Ed, Pardee or Turner. Who you hiring?
Oh, I'm hiring Turner every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, well, and I'll make this the final word because we got to move on to the next game, but I'm not saying that he's not going to be a good coach. And hell, he might even be a great head coach someday. I just think he's not ready yet. And is he a coach? Does he belong to be on the coaching staff? Yes, he belongs to be on the coaching staff. But I think as far as a head coach goes, he's not ready yet. So I don't know. I like I said, I wish him nothing but the best. But
right, and I do too. But
I think that there needs to be some saber rattling going on, and if I'm a player, I can only hear that somebody loves me so many weeks in a row before I'm ready to get slapped around a little bit. You know what I mean? You got to get somebody's attention. Okay, moving on to the next game. Let's start off, courtesy of the UFL, let's look at the Michigan-Houston highlights.
After he got up, running folks over.
On 3rd and 4, Danny Etling out of the timeout. Around pressure, throws back across his body, and has a touchdown. Malin. A yard away, Etling pulls it out, flips it to his tight end, and Nakua has it.
Get a quick pop downfield.
Here is that play action, just ahead of pressure. It is caught for a touchdown.
You've kind of got a game plan that everybody else in the offense is already comfortable with. Don't want to change it.
Oh, that Band-Aid is definitely off for Etling. You're right, Devin. He drops it in on 3rd and 8. Well, they gave it up on 4th down. Last drive and a pick here. Nobody touched him. Off he goes. Kenai Lovely. Making a move. He has a block. It's a pick 6.
I got to show one comment before we move on, and that's
I don't know what John is smoking with.
That's the one that John put up there. I would just say if they want to guarantee that San Antonio is going to finish 4-6 every year,
right?
That would be the move to make Jeff Fisher to San Antonio.
It's coming from the guy who says he's the real boss. What a joke. Mr. David, you need to take a nap before you make comments like that one. Good Lord.
How do you really feel, KJ? That's what I like to see. That's what I like.
See,
level,
Big Mike,
level
knows,
okay,
Big Mike knows what he's talking about. Big Mike knows what he's talking about.
So, Coach Nolan was spoke on in his presser on, they still need to reach another level, but it was sure nice to secure the playoffs. This is what he had to say.
But from a playing standpoint, I thought Danny here did a great job throughout the football game. taking us to a win. I thought the offense did a very good job. Marcel continues to call a very good game on offense, our offensive coordinator. On defense, I think the same thing. I think that Colin's doing an excellent job, although we just have to do a better job as the pass defense goes. We're giving up a little too many yards. This is probably the third of the last 4 weeks that we've given up more than we'd like to, but we'll continue to work on that. Outside of that, really happy about the victory, and really happy about the fact we made the playoffs, and that's all I got.
And that is nice too. And you guys said it too. Like even we'll get to it later in the game and as we go along in the games, but just secure a playoff spot. You can breathe a little bit because we know how close these games been in the league. But as far as what I saw from Houston too, I mean, I feel like a lot of what Houston had was spent last week against Birmingham, and then they had a half where they kept it close with Michigan. But if Michigan still has more to give, that's a scary thing for the league. Michigan's on a roll right now, and Coach Nolan thinks that there's another level out there that Michigan can achieve. So buckle up for the rest of the UFL. Michigan has an opportunity, I think, to win this thing. And what I would like to see is Michigan, if they were to win home field, how about going to Birmingham and wearing your home uniform set? I think that would be because you would have first choice. So if you wear their home colors at their place, lets everyone know, like, hey, we're the top seed. We beat you guys. So we'll see. Big game coming up this weekend. Will Michigan finally get over the hump and beat Birmingham? We'll have to tune in and find out.
So Coach Johnson had some words about the Michigan team. I'm going to go ahead and play them courtesy of the UFL. And KJ, I want to get your response when we come back.
Look, today we played probably, I think, the best team we played all season. As a team, man, this team has everything. I think Mike Nolan's done a fantastic job. Their quarterback play was outstanding. Thought they played very, very well. Defense was really, really good. Physical up front. One of our biggest mistakes is comedy of errors. We get out at the halftime. We're down by 2. We get out, we drop a pass, and it was similar to last week, and then here comes the avalanche. Our team isn't physically, or they aren't capable of overcoming much. We got a new quarterback. He's not young, he's new. He's trying to get it all, trying to do everything. I thought he played pretty decent, But we just got to come together and be more of a team.
And they can. Yeah. So go ahead.
Speaking of being too affirming, that would have been a prompting right there. I would have echoed your sentiment, Eric. That was the number one thing I saw watching the game Saturday was, and I don't remember if it was after halftime or before. I know they pulled away there at the kind of end of the third, especially with that. I think that pick 6 was definitely the nail in the coffin, so to speak, even being as early as it was or midway through the second half. But Jalen, I felt like he was trying to do too much out there. That pick 6 throw specifically, you look back at the highlight of it, it looked like he was just kind of lazily sidearming it, and it was an impulse throw in the moment. I don't think that he even fully, read the read on defensively. And then second to that, the one that really irked me and frustrated me, I think it was a third down attempt they were going for. He had scrambled to the right side of the field, was literally like 2 yards from the first down marker, and instead of running to get the first down, which he could have easily attained, he decides to try to make some magic happen with this little pivot pitch throw to the check down guy, and it's an incomplete ball. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Watching the game in that moment was very frustrating for me because it felt like he was trying to do too much. It's just like, stick to what you're good at, take what the defense gives you, and work your way back. Like at that point, we were only down, I think, a score, and it was the game was 100% still within reach. And I think that killed kind of the momentum of the back and forth, so to speak, in my opinion.
And to Coach CJ Johnson's point too, I mean, this isn't the first time I heard it from a player. Even when I was at the game against DC pregame, Chris Rowland, wide receiver, I got to catch up with him pregame. He said Michigan's the best team on the USFL side. So we'll get that answer for sure this coming Saturday. But, if a coach is saying that, players saying that, I mean, there's a lot, and Michigan's proving it too. And excellent offense. They're getting, they're reloading on defense too. Breland Speaks is coming back. So, for those quarterbacks. For those tackles out there. Michigan's going to get hot at the right time. So we'll see. This is a big one this weekend against Birmingham.
You know what I enjoy about you all the time, Mike, is you're very objective about your team.
Hey, I call it as I see it.
Hey, we're doing.
I call it as I see it.
So what is a negative for Michigan, Mike?
I mean, I think just stay healthy. Stay healthy. Take care of your reps, manage your reps in practice. And I'm sure the coaches do a great job of that too. You just never know in this game. You're always one play away. I don't know. The game doesn't pick and choose who goes down or what, but everyone stay ready. I hope they use these couple games here to whoever hasn't had the number of reps, maybe get in there, learn some things, maybe, get some film up on yourself too, because we all know the camera doesn't lie. So just reps, injuries, stay healthy, and keep pressing forward.
So other than injuries,
I'm drawing a blank.
Camera doesn't lie from the one man here using a green screen. I don't know if I can take your word there, Mike, unfortunately.
The logo back there?
Yeah. Unfortunately for Houston,
what's that there?
I think Mike is probably right what he said about Houston really shot their shot, KJ, against Birmingham, and it didn't work out.
They had a lifeline against Michigan.
Coming in against Michigan, since the loss to St. Louis, Michigan has played really well. It was 14-12. When it got 14-3, I thought, oh boy. Then they come back. Clinton throws a good ball. It's 14-12. We got a game. But I think Houston, for them, is in kind of that rarefied air for a lot of guys on this squad. They were there, but they just haven't quite been there yet.
Admirable effort. I will give Houston, honestly, a round of applause for their turnaround. Yes.
I can't see my eyes, Mike, but they're rolling right now.
I was going to say, that's not doing KJ.
But I want to give some credit where credit's due. For CJ Johnson, they were 3-3. That gave, we're like, here come the Roughnecks, 3-3 from that turnaround. I mean, that's some games to come back, to even it out, get some momentum. And yes, they carried that 3-3 into the Birmingham going up 25-6. But I just keep in my mind, thinking of when they lost that game to Birmingham, and the thing about football, when you get close games like that, you show the celebration, but then also there's the heartbreak. And you saw the Clennon's face. You saw they showed a lot of the Roughneck players' faces, and it was just this. I saw disbelief, just heartbroken. Like we just ruined our lack of or spoiled their shot in a sense where. They were in big trouble at that point, and it almost felt like this season, like they knew it was season ending in a way where, and there was a few games they had to play out to see if they had a lifeline. They did have a lifeline, so I imagine the prep was, okay, we have to win out and then have a little bit of help, which, you never know what happens, because if Michigan go into Birmingham, you would obviously be rooting for Birmingham at that point, get Michigan late in the season and just see how the cards fall at that point and give it your all. It just didn't happen that way. And, but you have to give solid effort for the guys sticking to it and keeping their hopes alive, which is, very cool to see.
But that third place ribbon is not going to sit very well as a KJ.
No.
No comment.
It is. That's what I'm saying. It's like you can say what you want about it, but it still sucks.
Oh, for sure it does, but what?
With that said, we are going to forge on to Game 3 of the weekend. Let's, courtesy of the UFL, let's take a look at the Birmingham St. Louis highlights.
in the backfield. It's first down from the 35. Pump fake and a beauty. Smith lets it fly. On the sideline route, he's got Deion Kane, touchdown. No question about that. Look out! The go zone. Max Duggan says, here
It's room on that sack.
first and goal from the 12. On the read. Duggan for the pylon. Touchdown. Which is what they were this time a week ago. Little look-in pattern. It is caught. And there is Deion Kane again. Touchdown, Birmingham. It's going the other way. Snared out of the air and returned by Callahan O'Reilly. Top of your screen. Going for it all. It is caught. It is Johnson. It is touchdown. 88. Kane to the 28-yard line of Birmingham. And Sailors pops free. Inside the 10. Touchdown. He will lead. Sailors, he's there. And the lead belongs to St. Louis. What a... And there it comes to Maribel. The ball's on the ground. Fumble. Battlehawks believe they've got it. Maribel almost had the 5 yards, and then the ball popped free. I mean, he was right where they needed to be at the 38-yard line. It is St. Louis football. Miles Jones on top of it. And Anthony Beck looks like...
So, St. Louis, you guys had the floor.
Well, there's a couple things. I'm not like Mike. We need to be able to figure out how to throw the ball consistently.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I didn't see a single pass in that highlight.
Yeah, but here's also the thing. If you say that you didn't see a single pass in that highlight, it means we had to move the ball on the ground. Moving the ball on the ground against Birmingham is not an easy thing. What St. Louis was able to do when Sailors moved that down to the 5-yard line, the touchdown was up the middle. The 1 point was just off tackle. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have, scary feelings of trying to rush the ball 3 times against Birmingham inside the 5, right, Mike? And not getting that ball in there. So, I mean, if St. Louis could just find a way to, one, be able to get the ball down the field via the pass. Now, Duggan had some good passes, but there's not a lot of consistency there. We don't utilize the tight ends at all, which still drives me mad. We have 6'7" Chase Allen, 6'5" Jake Sullivan. We don't. I mean, Ed, how many passes, tight ends did we have this weekend? 1 to Sutherland on the sideline.
I think Sutherland had 1 catch, didn't he?
And that might have been
it was insignificant.
Yeah.
But, it's a damn good thing that the front 7 come to play, because they had to cancel out all of the bad defensive back play.
Oh.
I mean, Smith torched St. Louis's defensive backs time and time and time again. So I don't know. The defense, yes, the defense did have some big plays, but they gave up a lot of big plays too.
I mean, I kind of look at it like this. I'm not going to sit here and just like, hey, St. Louis won, screw Birmingham, whatever. That doesn't mean crap to me. I mean, I almost look at that game, even though I would agree that it was probably the game of the week. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out how the hell we beat Birmingham when they had 4 plays of 50-plus yards through the air. Kane had 2 receiving touchdowns of 60-plus yards. And yet, St. Louis has consistently leaned on the defense all year long, and the defense has consistently come through all year long. But my God, Butler, Pearson, Darby, Jennings, Sailors out of the backfield, and we cannot throw for 150 yards a game at least?
Well, the thing is what happens when St. Louis plays a team that's having success stopping our running game? Between Sailors and Duggan, that's pretty much our offense is running the football. If we get a defense that's able to shut us down, well, like what DC did the first time around in St. Louis, we had no answer in the air when they did that. So really the recipe to beat St. Louis remained, it's pretty obvious as far as I'm concerned. You stop the running game, you stop St. Louis, because the St. Louis's passing game is almost non-existent.
But the thing that drives me nuts, though, is he threw a back shoulder throw to Butler there toward the end of the game for, 30 yards or whatever it was. Why are we only looking Butler's way a couple times a game?
Well, ran after he caught that pass. He ran off the field, ran along the sideline straight up to Coach Beck, and had his arms waving up in the air like, keep feeding me, keep feeding me.
Yeah, as they should. If you throw a ball up, if you get man coverage, single coverage on the outside to Butler, and you throw a ball up to him, is it anything less than a 60-40 ball going to him? But yet we don't. Now, on the flip side of that, when Birmingham was running 2 safeties and getting those linebackers to widen out, that was really a turning point in the game, because Duggan was able to blow that through the middle. We exploited that a couple times. And then when they brought the safety up, one of the safeties up, they run Sailors this way and Duggan goes the other way. So, I guess if you look from the passing standpoint, yeah, we don't show a whole lot there, even though it can be there. The fear of Duggan being able to run the ball like he does creates a lot of problems for the defense, because you saw the adjustments Birmingham was making when they exploited the 2 safeties back right up the middle. They were just widening out letting them go this way, and Duggan was boom. Safety walks up on this side, Sailors this way, Duggan that way. Safety up on this side, Sailors that way, Duggan that way. But that, I just don't know if you can, KJ, can you win a championship doing that?
No, that's what I was going to get to. I think there's 2 major points I take from the game, not to necessarily undermine what St. Louis was able to accomplish, but I do think you have to acknowledge all the mistakes that were made on Birmingham's side, and I'm not even referencing the defensive side of the ball. You had a pick 6 thrown by Jamar. You had that fumble, and then they had I'm trying to think of the other mistake that was in my head that I thought of. Basically got like a 3-prong error set that definitely contributed to St. Louis having sustained or extended momentum through the course of the game. Take those 3 things away, and you might be looking at St. Louis still charging down the field at the end of the game, but they wouldn't have necessarily been at the lead. So I guess that, to me, is the difference maker there. I think, to your point, too, this is a weird situation I think we're going to face, not only from last week, but also this coming week with having the championship preview game. It might not be too foregone to suspect the quote-unquote underdogs through the remainder of the regular season to win these upset games, but that only just give further film for the opposing coaches to come back to the table in the playoffs and go, okay, I've read your book now. Now I know how to fully attack it with near perfection and counteract it well. And for someone like Skip Holtz, you definitely can't count him short for they may have struggled this past week with keeping him contained, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to have better luck before when the playoffs come around if they have to face them again. I think they'll make the right adjustments, whether it's misdirections and defensive schemes and what they show Max Duggan or what have you. There's ways to adjust. So
right, but the thing that is, I guess counterpoint. St. Louis turns the ball over 3 times. If I were to tell Mike, if I were to tell you, Smith is going to complete 4 balls over 50 yards, and St. Louis is going to turn the ball over 3 times. What are you saying to that?
Yeah, I mean, shoot. Jamar, I mean, I wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's
no, what I'm saying is Birmingham walks away with that game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's
yeah, and this game too with Jamar and just kind of like segue. I mean, with KJ talking about Jamar and what he's doing too. I have the stats pull up here. The quarterback comparisons between the two. I mean, Jamar threw 262 yards, 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception, compared to Duggan, 110 yards, 1 interception. It's like you can't. There's something here. If I was a St. Louis Battlehawks fan, it's like kind of concerning a little bit, to be honest. So they've been playing well. Don't get me wrong. You beat a good Birmingham team, good Michigan team. There's good teams that they've beaten. They showed how strong they are. But I think right now with you see all these dynamic teams playing, it's like, well, we're not really dynamic. But maybe that's the identity of the Battlehawks. Maybe they go with the smash mouth kind of offense here. Is that the way? But could they win with that? That is to be determined.
We saw Smith burn St. Louis 3 times. Beautiful balls. Laid them out there perfect. First play of the game, the Battlehawks sent Shakur Pearson deep, and he had 2 steps on the guy over the middle. If Duncan leads them, it's a touchdown, but he put way too much air under it, and the defender was able to catch up and knock it away. Fast forward to the 4th quarter, Greg Jennings, same thing, going down the left side of the sideline of the field. If he leads them with a strong pass like what Smith had done on several occasions, that's another walk-in touchdown. Again, too much air under the ball, allows the defensive back to catch up, and he makes the play. So is it, to the point of, Eric made the comment in the comment line that his throwing motion, is it the fact that he's putting too much air under the ball, or is his delivery just that slow that it's given that defensive back another second to recover?
I've seen quarterbacks. To me, he throws a football like a baseball. And I've seen other quarterbacks do that. And the timing mechanism has to be different in your head. You have to pull the trigger a little bit quicker when you're dropping that ball down here and coming all the way up, as opposed to here and letting it go with a quick release. And I just don't think he quite has the time. To me, based on what I've seen in the UFL, that is probably why when he got the NFL, it didn't work for him. Because let's face it, college to the NFL, you got 11 NFL guys on that side now. Not just 3, maybe 4, you've got 11. And maybe the timing mechanism has just never caught up as to when I need to deliver the ball without, that little bit can be a step and a half. We saw it in the 2 long passes. Ed was there. I was watching on TV. It can be a step and a half in a play. And but that goes back to my point is, why are we not creating throws, especially tight end? Tight ends are a quarterback's best friend.
They are.
And St. Louis, in the 3 years I've been rooting for St. Louis, has just refused to create that cohesion between quarterback and tight end. It's been all about the receivers. Where is Chase Allen? Where is Sutherland across the middle? We just refuse to do it. You can take St. Louis's passing game out if you just guard hashes out, because that's where we try to deliver the ball. Either Sailors out in the flat or hashes out. That's where the ball's going.
We keyed in on Sailors easy, like early in, screens, check down, Sailors. Where's Sailors? Put 11 guys on Sailors if you wanted to stop St. Louis this team, especially in the early going.
Right. And again, point, counterpoint, I understand what you guys are saying. I think it was KJ that said, the blueprint's out there. The blueprint has been out there for weeks now. And somehow, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think St. Louis would beat Michigan, and they do. I wasn't all that certain about St. Louis beating Birmingham, and they did. I mean, how scary would St. Louis be if they could throw the ball for a couple hundred yards a game?
Call me corny, but I don't think Bryce was in all game. That game they beat Michigan. So
I get it. I understand.
But I mean, to that point, that's the same argument I would have, on the counter end too. But I definitely, I echo Eric's sentiment. One of his original comments: St. Louis has two other QBs. Call me biased, call me what you will, and I don't advocate in any sense that they kind of cavalier open their mindset to be willing to lose a game per se. But the playoffs are set. It doesn't matter what happens these next 2 weeks in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, you don't want to affect your team's confidence and countenance going into the playoffs, but you have 2 weeks to test the waters and do a lot more kind of, okay, let's throw a wild card in here and see what happens. To your point, Eric, like throw a new scheme in, see if it plays out. If it doesn't, oh well, you haven't lost your position in the playoff race. And I don't know. That's my personal opinion.
I would have, if I'm locked into the playoffs, keep the starters in for a half. Then if you have any reserves, I know how limited your roster numbers are, but get them in there.
So here is, despite this was a game of big plays, and courtesy of the UFL, this is what Coach Holtz had to say about the game.
It's what a game, huh? A hell of a football game. Two teams, a heavyweight fight, two teams battling it out, toe to toe. It's like two teams standing in the middle of the ring slugging it out. It was really, I give Coach Beck and his team an awful lot of credit. I thought they did the things they needed to do to win today. Looking at our football team, I'm proud of the way that they competed, proud of the way that they fought. There was never, it was one of those things you didn't lose, you ran out of time, and I was really proud of the way that our team competed. We talk about it each and every week. You learn lessons from your football team. You learn lessons as a man. You learn lessons as an individual. You learn lessons as a team, and we've learned an awful lot about this team. We have now been through Jamar being our fifth quarterback. Was really proud of the way that he went out there and the way that he competed and some of the plays that he made. I certainly, there's a couple we'd like to have back. I know there's a couple he'd like to have back.
So if you noticed while Coach Holtz was talking, Smith was sitting right next to him, and he's like shaking his head. I don't know if he was quite as hip on the game as what
you can read lips. I can read lips. So can you.
So once again, Coach Beck had nothing but praise for the defense. Let's hear what he had to say, courtesy of the UFL.
Talk about the defense that last stop. Feeney's got his hands in everything, and those guys just, like you said, sold out to stop him and shut him down.
They're closers. The defensive line, the ends, just the pressure they put on the quarterback, finding the football, knocking it out. We had some guys get nicked up. Guys had to play some extra snaps on the interior. Willie, Callahan, O'Reilly with the pick six. I mean, we run that drill. It's funny. I was like, that's the drill. That's the drill. I say that after every interception by our linebacker, but they practice that exact moment every single week. Chris Claiborne does a great job of just preparing those guys and putting them in those opportunities to make those plays, and that's huge. I mean, you got three linebackers that Mike and Willie and Callahan that just do a great job, but to be big in that moment and catch the football and finish. We've seen so many dropped possible pick sixes on our end, and it was good to come up. We needed it. It was such a defining play, a defining moment, and Donnie does a great job of putting these guys in the right spot.
It's the defense. I mean, the defense has been playing lights out. And during this 4-game winning streak, the defense has been it. The offense has done just enough. Somebody said that in the comment line. The offense did just enough, but the defense has been phenomenal. So that's about it.
Yeah.
Defense wins championships, boys.
So let's move on to the final game of the week.
Spicy one.
Spicy, for sure.
Hey,
Lots to talk about with this one.
My Panther Pride joining us.
Hello, My Panther Pride. Oh, and the answer to My Panther Pride, I think with Michigan, Birmingham, got to go best for best here. You got to see what film, how you stack against them with your current, with the current rosters at their best. So I would go full, everyone ready to go.
And a shameless plug for my oldest son, who's an executive chef. I'm gonna entertain My Panther Pride at my son's steakhouse the night before the championship game. So,
all right.
So anyway, let's get back to it. Let's go to the last game of the week's highlights between Arlington and DC, courtesy of the UFL.
Week 8 of the UFL. This is where the hometown DC defenders take this field with a little extra bounce in their step. The close-knit culture of this roster, it has them in the midst of an impressive sketch for 7 yards, only 2 total targets, getting the ball early, and here it goes. Oh, they keep it on the ground with Jackson, and he is gone, just like that. Say, come on, Chris, let's go. Here is Chris rolling, throw back to Tahamu, blocker in front. Tahamu reaching out and scoring. What a play by DC. Chris Rowland. Perez to the end zone. It was high but caught. Tyler Vaughn's got that one hand up and brought it down. Oh, what a play. Are you kidding? Ready? They go. Third and goal. Back in the end zone. Touchdown. Gonna get it quickly to the outside. And it's picked off. Can you believe that? What a mistake as DeAndre Baker jumps it. They didn't need to do it. DeAndre Baker with a game-sealing interception that puts
Unforgivable. I mean, 2 things from that game, KJ. That last play was unforgivable. I don't know who called it. I don't know if that's on Luis Perez. That's on Coach Long. My guess is it was on Perez.
Yeah.
In those situations, Long gives him a lot of leeway. My guess is Perez was calling the plays at those times. But I'm pretty sure when I was watching the game, I did hear Stoops say, we're spiking it, right? Or something like that. But the second thing is, Arlington has put 63 points on the board offensively against DC in 2 games. And they are 0-2.
Yep.
AJ, how is that?
Because the king of spring is not clutch.
Well, but Arlington's defense has been
they played a great game overall. Like that, in my opinion, that was one of the best games of the season so far, if not the best game. I felt looking at the highlights, especially, that's a slighted picture, but man, I feel like I was watching like 2020 XFL right there, man. It was
but
action almost every point.
The 70 points in 2 games against DC. Like at some point in time, like for instance, they're fighting for their playoff lives. They know they have to win this game.
Right.
I kept waiting, not necessarily for Arlington's offense. They made a lot of plays. I mean, they really did. And I know the last play, that was just unforgivable. But was the defense going to step up and say, hey, it's our turn. Watch us cook. But they just could never do it. You know, they just could never get that big stop, get that turn. You know, we can go back to a lot of the games. We can go back to the St. Louis Burning game. They got the fumble on Marable, or they got the pick six. Arlington has just not been able to get that big stop, that big turnover, that big play on the defensive side of the ball to help save their season. That, to me, again, 63 points in 2 games, and they're 0-2. I mean, I guess
can't close.
Yeah. You know,
there's probably 1 or 2 positional coaching changes that have occurred over the past few seasons that I'm not privy to or memory refreshed on. But I mean, it would almost behoove Stoops to go back and look at, you know, the rosters are definitely different. There's no doubt. But I mean, to your point, you're losing to the same team that you were finally, you know, at least once in your holistic history able to overcome, even in the championship game in the XFL side. Like, what was different back then? Was it a certain positional group that just had a better build, better room build out? Was it, you know, the coach that made the difference? Like, that would be interesting in my point of view, to look back and see.
But Mike, would you agree? Ed and I have talked about this. Has Luis lost a little bit? I mean, just in terms of, you know, his footwork, maybe pocket presence, his ability to kind of move around. Like, is he all of a sudden this aging, you know, Aaron Rodgers of spring football that just can't, you know, is just there's something off?
Seems like ever since that book came out was when things started, like, I don't know if it's other teams like, yeah, King of Spring, huh? Let's see. And maybe they played a little harder against them, like who they, you know, especially maybe Birmingham. I'm sure they took offense to that, you know, with that book. Like, who called him King of Spring or Spring King? Like, I don't remember being asked who I thought King of Spring was, and I don't think I'd name Luis Perez, to be honest. I'd probably look at, in my opinion, Alex Magoo as possible, who if you wanted to see who a King of Spring would be. But I did notice, you know, at the beginning of the season, there was a press conference by Luis Perez, and it seemed like he was a different Luis Perez, like had a little fire under him that I haven't seen, you know, and in a bit, you know, coming off of last year. And it's like, okay, he's looking to do big things this year. He's got all the passing yards, all the stats he wants, you know, because I've seen people like, oh, well, this guy can't complete a pass. And when you look at his stats, you know, I mean, they may have like a little dink and dunk offense, but gosh, but in that situation with playoffs hanging in the balance, what are you doing? Like, and your kicker, kicker was you hit. They said you're in his range. Why would you take a risk like that for what, 5 more yards? You're gonna put the ball in the air that lobs up there. They talked about the fake spike, how much time that took to do that, and it's just, what are you doing? Like that, it's your whole season hangs in the balance, and you call that. And you know, I have like you said, I have no idea who called that play call. But if you are Bob Stoops, you got to overrule your whatever decisions talk about. You have the final say, and you say this ball is going right into the turf when you take this snap, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna hey, if you lose in a shootout, so be it. You know, that's just how it goes. But losing the way you did there, that was just a bonehead. And an honorary, I mean, if I had control over your studs and duds list, that goes right to the top.
Oh, 100%.
That would be my top dud decision. An awful decision.
You led us perfectly into Bob Stoops being unclear about that final play. So let's take a look and see what he had to say.
on that note, do you feel as if you could have that play back, that maybe they should have just taken the field goal versus being that aggressive?
We weren't that aggressive. I think I'll have to ask the offensive guys. I thought we were just spiking the football and going to kick the field goal. And Luis thought he had the out route, so he threw it, and it didn't work that way.
Way to create an us and them thing. Like, it's,
I'll have to ask the offensive guys. You
like,
know?
That's on. Yeah, like, come on. Like, that is such bull.
You can see the frustration on his face, that's for sure.
Oh, you know, he was sitting back in that chair like he was probably still in disbelief that even happened. I mean, again, you can only say unforgivable so many times, but you know, Stoops had to be thinking to himself, what? I mean, I'd have been on the radio like, what the hell are we doing? Who called it? Right. Like, whoever called that should be fired. I mean, honestly, if it was Luis Perez, he should be done for the year. Like, that is just, to me, and the thing about it is, Luis Perez was 32 of 46 for 343 yards. St. Louis fans would take that stat all day and twice on Sunday. You know? But somehow Arlington has just not found.
It's just further proof that the stats on paper don't always tell the whole story.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. And to your point, the complete opposite with like someone like Tamu who can go barely over 50, but the in-game product or in-game result you see from his play on field is night and day different.
Right.
It hasn't been every game. It hasn't been every game that he's, in my opinion, thrown the game away. But, I mean, the first evidence I saw of it was even as far back as the start of last year in the game against Birmingham when they played. And it was meant to be the, I guess, rematch of or not rematch, but the matchup of the champions because it was, you know, the first year we merged. And he did a similar sort of thing in the second half of that game, throwing the ball away for an easy pick. And it kind of just helped Birmingham lock in the win against him.
Yeah.
And he's just, I don't think he's been the same since, honestly.
I do have a little something here.
You got it, man.
Got some news here out of the Michigan Panther deal. So Jake Bates will make an appearance at the final home game, and it'll be a bobblehead giveaway. So, we know how big bobbleheads are. Can't wait to see it.
You could have mentioned that when we make our picks, Mike. We're talking about Arlington, but hey,
yes,
I don't
shameless
know.
Plug for the Panthers.
Yeah, shameless plug again. We're gonna start calling this the Bottom Line Michigan Panthers edition. But Bob Stoops, I think maybe the bottom line is trickling into the UFL because I think maybe Bob Stoops mentions the bottom line. Let's take a look here.
Tell to the players in the locker room.
Well, I just feel disappointed for them. They work hard. They play hard. We just, too many mistakes overall. That's the bottom line. And these tight, close games, you got to minimize your mistakes.
That's got to be in our intro. That's got to be in our intro now.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's the bottom line. Coach Stoops mentioned us, I think. Shameless plug for the bottom line. Thanks, Coach Stoops. No, and in all fairness, in all seriousness, I'm going to throw out a hot take here, and you guys can agree or disagree. Take that last play out. I really believe that the reason that Arlington is where they're at, outside looking in, no playoffs. I 100% think it's the defense. I do. I 100% believe it's the defense. The defense, to me, the defense in this game got covered up by the stupid pass that everybody remembers at the end of the game to not have the chance at the field goal.
Right.
So anything that happens during that game, nobody remembers it. They just remember Luis Perez going like this, throwing the out, pick, game over. But if the defense, I guess taking a page out of Coach Pardee, if we make two more plays. But I think you could say that almost every week about Arlington, where the defense has just, to me, steadily just kind of and hasn't kind of pulled their own weight. And then the offense is constantly pushing. I mean, if you look at Arlington's offensive numbers, okay, St. Louis is 6-2, right? I don't know the answer to this. Maybe somebody wants to take the time to compile it. Arlington's offensive numbers have to be a third better than St. Louis. Maybe not on the rushing side. I'm just saying total offense. I mean, total offense this week, they had 429 total yards. 429 total yards. St. Louis had, I believe, 283.
I can't
But
say
yeah.
courtesy of a football database. That's one of the things stats they compile. This is league wide per team. So Arlington sits in second place across the league with over 1,600 passing yards, and in the rushing category, they are kind of low at 738.
Without Balaj. Balaj.
St. Louis is literally at the bottom of the entire league in passing yards, and they do have the advantage on rushing. They're leading the league in rush yards. So
right.
But to your point, that's a testament, you could argue, to the kind of one-dimensionality of the offensive side of the ball.
Right. But take Balaj out of there. Arlington was to me way more of a complete package with Balaj in there before he got hurt than St. Louis could ever claim to be. Whether you had Wilkins in there or Duggan.
Right.
But yet one team sits at 6-2 and one team is 3-5, not in the playoffs. So to me, I see it as a defensive problem. That's my take. I know there's been bonehead plays, but I just think the defense has let Arlington down, and they've been taken off the hook by late Luis Perez interceptions or whatever it might be. But I just think the defense has let them down. Anyway, let's hear from Coach Harris. He talks about the first sweep ever of Arlington, and I think probably about how it felt.
Whatever the crazy
Courtesy
reason
of the
is, since 2023, we've never beaten Arlington in a back-to-back game, and, we challenged our players this week. Whatever that why is, I don't know, and it's always been a close game, the same as today, but whatever that why was, all right, let's figure it out today and make sure it doesn't happen again, that we win, they win, we win, they win, right? So the great part about it, our guys came out, showed some grit, and they fought hard, never quit, stayed in the fight, and we finally got our running game going, which was huge for us to get it, to run it the way we did today. And Jordan, threw the ball well, had a couple missed throws, and that was easily fixable. Just a lot of things from a fundamental technique standpoint, but guys caught the ball well. They blocked well on the perimeter, our receivers, and then when we needed to stop the most at the end, our defense stepped up huge for us. So.
Always love the opportunity to hear Coach Harris speak. I think he's a great coach to follow, great coach to root for. Tough teams, since he's probably got to have one of the best, if not the best, locker room in the league as far as how he communicates his message. Obviously all the playoff teams, I'm sure, have good locker rooms, right? That's also part of the thing too. All these teams look at all the playoff teams and how they respond, who their coaches are, by the way. They're all vocal. Beck, you hear him all the time, and Coach Nolan, he changed, like, he's got his guys, like, he's he's the old ball coach, and he's like a grandfather to these guys. He calls them kids, he loves it. You got Skip Holtz, who's like his leadership ability too, how he rallies, keeps things calm, but also at a high level, like a teacher, and then Coach Harris, coming, and they got to get the interim tag off there. If not, they're just going to do it after the season. And
100% agree with you.
He's the guy next year. I can guarantee, you can slap that guarantee on there. He'll be unless he get, if he chooses the job, will be there. So
right.
he's their guy. And just all these coaches that are just phenomenal to watch. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and I would tell you too, Mike, that my favorite coach, even though I'm a Battlehawks fan, my favorite coach to listen to is Coach Holtz.
Oh, absolutely, it is.
He will absolutely rip Smith's ass up and down on the field, but then he's like, "Okay, here we go."
Yep.
And then if Smith makes it, he comes off, and he's like, "It's Yahtzee!" I just like that he's very direct with him, but then at the same time, he'll also pull him aside and say, "Hey, this is what we're looking at." I like the interaction he had with Smith. I'm glad you decided at the end of the third quarter to finally start listening to me to throw the ball. And I can't remember if it was to the flat or to the check down or whatever. I do love Coach Holtz. I really
Coach
do.
Holtz will put his arm around you when you're doing, when you
Yep.
he
And rip your ass with a smile. I mean. But anyway, so we've got we obviously have the game set. The game's going to be at Birmingham, regardless of how Michigan and Birmingham come out, and the game's going to be in St. Louis, regardless of how DC and St. Louis finish. And Jordan Ta'amu was asked about that, and he responded
that going into this week, and we were really a little frustrated that if it comes down to that, I feel like we do need to play in a neutral spot because playing back in St. Louis, I mean, I played there, so it's like just having that home field. I mean, for them, that home field advantage while we're the home team is, I don't think it's fair. And I think a neutral site, I mean, we've even talked about what about just playing back in Arlington where we don't have to travel, save a lot of money and play there. And I don't know. I just think the league got to figure that out.
Very interesting. You can
Does
go
he have a point?
You can go multiple ways with this. At the end of the day, I mean, honestly, it probably is for TV to decide, and I don't think it's getting moved anywhere because they want to see these environments chocked full of fans. Given, it's obviously going to be a huge disadvantage for the road team, right? But at the end of the day, you just have to suck it up, Buttercup. Welcome to the playoffs here. This is pro football, buddy. I know the neutral site deal, the money and stuff like that, but yeah, let's get ready to go. And
KJ, I don't know how you feel about it. I kind of look at it this way. Is it unfair? Yeah, it is.
Life's not
fair. But life's not fair. But do you agree with Jordan's assessment of we should just maybe be playing it in Arlington or something like that?
And I don't disagree there. Yeah, go ahead, KJ.
I mean, I think to Tom's point, and I know they'll never do this, but if they wanted to be fair, despite the conundrum they're currently facing, it would be split the stands in half, don't sell the half of St. Louis's fan base for the playoffs, and force restrict those seats for incoming, Defenders fans, so to speak. But that would just be my thought. Now, like I said, they won't do that, I'm sure.
No.
Reasons or what have you. But all that to say, I mean, yeah, neutral site would be preferred. Honestly, if we didn't have it sucks because it's they wouldn't happen either. But Michigan is you could consider a neutral site, but the reason they're not playing there is for the same exact reason. So there's really there's no workaround, at least this present year, for that. I've seen a lot of people petition that as in the fan groups about the league needs to have a neutral site for these type of situations, just as kind of a backup plan B option available when needed.
Canton would be nice.
Yeah, I think that's the USFL side has the connection there. It makes sense to me, at least to some extent. But I mean, I don't know if we get expansion next season. Ideally, I think that would almost at least open up your venue horizons naturally because of having a larger league. Not all of those are, if we get Seattle, I don't know what the other team would be for sure. But if it is Ohio, to your point, Mike, you at least get one of the two that's kind of semi-centrally located geographically, so it could facilitate that.
And our Panthers fans would drive that, and there's even Panther fans out there. There's a lot of Panther fans I've seen. They're gonna hike down to Birmingham for that championship game. So,
this is, as a St. Louis fan, of course, I don't live in St. Louis. It's difficult. I see absolutely both sides of it. I see the corporate side where they're like, well, if we're going to have the championship game in St. Louis, it's going to have good optics. I also see the screw job side of it from DC saying, now we have to go back into St. Louis and deal with the crowd noise, and it could potentially be a home game. He kind of jumped the gun there a little bit. but it could be potentially a home game for them and have to go into the – and same way with Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, we're not jumping the gun saying Michigan's automatically going to win the USFL side. But if they do, now they have to go to Birmingham and play on their field. Now, obviously the crowd is different, so it doesn't play into it as much.
Michigan's had Birmingham on the ropes at their place, so I don't think Michigan's too worried about Birmingham's environment, you know, in a way. I mean, it's still, you know, a good crowd shows up there, but, you know, it's not St. Louis loud.
I think outside of the optics component, even if they were to, let's say theoretically, okay, they granted the frustration of, you know, the teams say, okay, we'll use the hub. We'll play in Arlington, for instance. While I think that's a justifiable and perfectly quote unquote equal solution for, say, Michigan, Birmingham, it really still isn't for DC St. Louis, or I'm sorry, for DC St. Louis. And the reason I say that is if you look at it beyond the team component. For the teams, it's convenient, and it'd be neutral for both of them. But DC fans are still getting the shorter end of the stick. That's a skip and a hop for St. Louis to fly.
Right.
If you're a traveling fan, you're still sitting there in DC going, neutral? Are you kidding me? Like, we got to go west of St. Louis. How the F is that fair? You know, so I could see how in this scenario there really is no perfect win-win solution, even with a neutral site, based on the fact we don't have one that's, you know, in multiple areas, or we don't have an option that's not tied to an existing team in the league already. So
and I think, you know, with that, you nailed it. I mean, you nailed it 100% on the head.
What they want to see too.
Yeah.
They got St. Louis, DC prime time on Fox, and they got Michigan, Birmingham 3:00 on ABC. So that'll be good games. I was actually hoping Michigan got the night game because I think outdoor under the lights looks pretty good. And then you can still have, and the reason why I made a comment or a post about St. Louis 3:00 because that'd be like an NFC Championship kickoff time. You know, all in St. Louis. Oh, this feels like a St. Louis Rams game. You know, I think that'd be more close to that. But you know, obviously the leagues, you know, they know what to do. But I would have liked to see an outdoor stadium be, you know, the lights there, so the lights on the field, give it a really old school gritty.
You understand why they did that, Mike?
Oh, absolutely, I know. I mean, Fox is so.
Fox wanted the optics, and again, I'm not sitting here tooting St. Louis's horn. I get tired of that.
The championships on ABC though.
I understand. I'm just saying for the determination of, you know, this game. ABC got Michigan, Birmingham. Fox got DC and St. Louis.
Yep, they're gonna put it on prime time.
Yeah, that's because they want.
They write the checks. They
write the checks. They want 30,000 plus in there, 35,000 plus for that game. That's why they're doing it. Yeah. Again, I'm not tooting St. Louis's horn like, oh my God, but I'm just saying from a corporate side of it, that's exactly why they're doing it. That's why they got the primetime game. I 100% agree with you, Mike. You can have a game in a dome at 2:00, at noon, or 8:00 at night. It all looks the same.
Yep.
But under the lights at night, you know, when the sun starts going down, the lights start, that has the feel, but they were never going to do that. It just wasn't going to happen.
Not to give Michigan another shameless plug, but as an attaboy to the fan base, since they're the only team this year that has shown a demonstrable or a measurable improvement in attendance over last season.
Michigan's up 32.5%.
I know that. I said they're the only.
Giving you the plug, Mike. Just relax.
Shut up for a second and let me compliment your team.
Talk.
Yapper.
Just let him talk.
My point was, they have proven they're a growing fan base. If they can keep up that forward momentum, and this is idealistic to say that this would occur by next year, but speaking rainbows and candy canes, if they can at some point eclipse DC, geographically they are central in the U.S. So by rights, and the fact that San Antonio, for instance, is on the opposite end struggling, you could argue, okay, St. Louis and then Arlington thereby become our kind of quasi north and south central neutral sites when we need to use them. So
Right.
Michigan is almost making their case if they continue the upward trajectory as a fan base that they currently have.
Yeah.
To be that second option, I guess is what I would
Absolutely,
say.
yeah. And Ford, and I think everyone all the players love playing at Ford Field, from what I understand.
It's a great venue. Yeah, I mean, I've never been there, but I can tell if it's good enough for an NFL team, surely.
There's no bad seat in that place because it's built like how it's flat. It doesn't go up like this. It's going like this. So there's really only like 2 levels to Ford Field. If you take one elevator to press level, it's like, do we really go up 6 floors? It doesn't feel that way.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got to cut this. Okay. Week 8 is over. Now, I'm going to make an executive decision since I don't know where Daddy Ed went. So clearly I am in control of the show now. So
I'm the captain.
We are going to introduce a new segment. And I'm going to be quite honest because, again, mentioning that I didn't plan on being here tonight, I have no idea what's coming. However, I'm going to put it up here, and then I'm going to let him take it away. But we have a brand new segment, and it is going to be KJ's Hot Takes, and he's not messing around. So, KJ, that's about all I can do for you.
I did not come up with the tagline, so if anybody thinks it's corny, it's not my fault.
No, that's Ed. That's the boss, according to John David. So, yeah. So take it away, KJ.
For those who have followed my page for some time since the start of the season, you'll know that I do bowl predictions each week, primarily for the upcoming weekend slate of games. And so this essentially is just a kind of a reciprocal recap or rehatching of that. I try to go through and keep tabs on kind of statistical trends, if you want to call them that we see through the course of the season, and then make corresponding picks, not only on the obvious outcomes of the games for who wins, who loses, and if so, by possibly what specific margin, but also very more granular, specific bowl predictions reflective to each game that are upcoming for that week. So that's kind of basically the premise of this entire list that I have that stretches all the way back to the start of the season, essentially. For like I said, for those who have followed me, some of y'all know some of those historically, if you've ever viewed the live doc that I have both posted on my page, and I'm assuming at some point we'll either share here directly or come up with a secondary graphic to kind of make it more bite-sized.
So give us some hot takes.
Don't
give us predictions. We'll take care of the predictions at the end of the show.
That's fair. I can skip over those. So
you skip over those to hold on to those till the end so we know those. But give us some other hot takes that you're talking about here.
So obviously we spent the last 10 or 15 minutes a little while ago dogging on Mr. Duggan and his struggle to get in the air, if you will. I think this week is a little bit of glimmer on the horizon or silver lining, if you will, I think, with their slated opponent in playing San Antonio. I think that will bode well for Max. And one of my big first kind of hot takes, if you will, is I think that he's going to do well this week, both in the air and on the ground. And to get specific, my prediction is that he's going to have over 160 yards passing and over 55 yards rushing, which is pretty damn high compared to what he's done all season. So
I'm going to write that down because I hope you're right. 160 yards.
At least, yeah, these are minimum thresholds. So if he eclipses it, I still get a green check mark. 160 yards passing and over 55 yards rushing. So he's going to light it up and turn it on, and we'll see what happens. Moving on to the second matchup we've got for the week, obviously, Memphis and Arlington going head-to-head. I think they're going to – I forget the coach's name for the Showboats.
Turner.
Turner mentioned – I think he mentioned it last week, I want to say, or the week before. He was asked by one of the reporters in the post-game presser about his choice on mixing in the QBs and that sort of thing. And I think he was at least transparent about his desire to give the guys reps. I think that's even more true now that they're, they've for some time actually obviously been out of the playoff race. And so because of that, I think that EJ Perry is going to get a chance to get out on the field again this coming week. And I'm predicting he's going to at least get a single touchdown pass against Arlington when they play. Also, secondary to that, and this one's honestly looking back, I don't know why I did this, but I guess I'm sure there was justification for it. This is going to be high, especially since I just spent the past 10 minutes dogging on Perez. But I think Arlington still is going to end up winning that game. That's not the hot take. The hot take is that they're going to take the lead in the fourth quarter, which is something they obviously could not do against DC. So maybe this is an opportunity for Perez to redeem himself for all of you Renegades fans, and give you a chance to tip your cowboy hats to the man in the pocket. So that's the other one for that. Moving on to the last two games of the week we have. So Jamar's obviously been good at staying mobile. That's part of what makes him a dual threat quarterback for Birmingham. I don't think that's going to change this week. This one's probably lower on the echelon of like bold predictions, but I'm predicting that he's going to get over 40 yards rushing against Michigan, despite their defensive prowess. And then also the other one I had was that on the ground and through the air, I think Bryce is going to get a score against Birmingham twofold, which he's done before this season, not in every game, but he has done before. And I think despite Birmingham's best efforts, Michigan is still going to be able to produce some numbers and get some points and scores in the end zone. And I think at least on each of those occasions, Bryce is going to get both a touchdown through the air and on the ground in this weekend's matchup.
What we have not seen against Birmingham is a full 4 quarters of Bryce Perkins.
This is true. That is true. That's part of my testament to believing that they're going to be able to put up a great game against them.
Let me add a hot take that just came to my mind. Maybe you already have it on there, KJ. I don't want to take any of your thunder. So if I do,
you're
shut
fine.
me
Go
up.
for it. I like people echoing my mind.
My hot take, in order for Michigan to beat Birmingham, is they must rush for 100+ yards. I don't care if that's Perkins, on the running backs, or if that's the running backs or whatever. St. Louis is able to put 173 yards on the ground against Birmingham. For Michigan to win, it can't just be Perkins through the air. I feel like they have to rush for 100+ yards to win the game. Did I take that from you?
You didn't take it from me, but it's funny you mentioned that specific attribute. That's something I didn't include in my bold predictions, but it was something I did kind of a secondary listing of like keys to each game. And in the next matchup we have with Houston and DC, that's actually one of the things I touched on when I looked back and compared both teams. So I'll get to that in a second. So kind of just rolling into the DC Houston matchup. One of the biggest things I picked up on looking back at DC's season, obviously they've had 2 losses so far this year. And it took me a while actually to find these particulars, because there are a lot of commonalities between stat threshold hits, if you will, that either Tamu or other members of the team have had when DC's won versus lost. Some of those are almost synonymous. So it's very hard to pick out, okay, what uniquely went wrong here versus these other games where they were successful and came away with the dub. And what I came up with basically was noting that the biggest things that stuck out to me in the 2 losses, both that they had against San Antonio and Michigan, I believe it was that in each of those games, they were at 50% or less efficiency, both in their red zone scoring. So anytime they got into the red zone, pushing it through to either get a field goal, touchdown, what have you, and also their 3rd and 4th down efficiencies. So when basically the opposing team is able to really stifle their offensive efficiency, it makes sense. It's a natural delineation that they're not going to score points, thus not going to take the lead, thus not win the game. And then the second one kind of goes hand in hand with that on the DC side, which is penalties. While they have been clutch in a lot of games and struggled in other areas, they've still come up with the dub most of the time. But their Achilles heel in the 2 losses they did have is that they were demonstrably overweighted in penalties and penalty yardage in those 2 losses. In the San Antonio game, I believe, they had 13 for 121 yards. And then in the Michigan game, a little less crazy, but still high compared to their opponent, which was 8 for 90. And in each of those settings, they essentially doubled the penalty count and or the penalty yardage that their opponent had, which is just a kill switch or a nail in the coffin for a team's long-term efficiency through the course of the game. Getting to what you were alluding to, though, Eric, for Houston, one of the biggest things I picked up on was that for their keys to victory against DC, they basically, in every game we have won, we have been able to get over 100 yards rushing. So for Houston, just as much as it's probably true for Michigan and any team really, being a dual threat offense is potent and powerful, and it's that much harder for a defense to defend. Houston, when they've been able to get over 100 yards rushing, they have been able to come away with the dub. So that's one of the biggest keys for Houston, I think, against DC, is we have to stay dedicated to the run game and establish that in order to allow Jalen to be that much more potent in our passing game to keep DC on their toes through the course of the game this weekend. Correspondingly, on our side of the ball, Houston has to minimize the penalties so that they can come out ahead against DC. And then no picks. That was the biggest thing I took from our game against Michigan. That pick six that Jalen threw towards the end of the game was really the nail in the coffin, took the wind out of the sails, I think, of both the offense and the defense. If he can prevent making those type of mistakes, it'll contribute that much more to our capability to come away with the dub against DC and pull off a crazy last end of the season upset.
I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate it. Speaking of that, my bold or hot take, I'd say, for the game for that one is that DC is going to commit over 7 penalties through the course of the game. They've averaged essentially that or higher almost every game. I think the only game they went below 7 penalties was against Arlington in that close matchup they had. I think they had like 4 or 5 tops. So that was their lowest all season, ironically, and it was one of the closest games they've had. But I think they're gonna stay true essentially and commit 7 or more. And then on the opposite side, Jalen, I think, is going to throw for over 200 yards against DC. So those are my 2 hot takes for that last matchup of the weekend. So,
all right. Now, I will say, KJ put a heck of a lot of work into that. I don't know how you do that, buddy.
I get nervy. It's
I get nervy. Listen, we all have to do that at times. We all have to do that at times. We got our own little niches we like to check out, and the hot takes, I love it. But you can add my 100 yards, Mike. When you guys are talking next week, if Michigan rushes for 80 yards, they're going to lose. If they rush for over 100, they're going to win. Make sure and give me credit, because I know I won't be here next week. Unless a baseball field, unless a baseball field blows up or something. What's that, KJ?
I said I got your back. I'll give you the shout.
You got my back. You got my back. All right. Just a quick announcement for those of you that were asking. Ed is a little under the weather. So he texted me and said, man, I am not feeling good. I am out. So that is where Big Daddy Ed is, and that's why I am now in control of the show. So it is my job to keep us rolling. So I'm going to take that down, and we are going to move on.
Fourth quarter. Hold up your 4s.
Yep, this is 4. All right, here we go. We got our power rankings. Ed's power rankings for week 9. Let me split the screen here. I'm going to go through these for him. I'm just going to assume I know what he was doing when he put these together. Obviously, San Antonio and Memphis are at the bottom. You know, San Antonio, again, as I said before, I have no idea what has happened to them. If you'd have told me they were going to be 1-7 at the beginning of the year, I'd have taken any kind of bet you wanted to lay, KJ. If you'd have said $50, San Antonio's 1-7 at week 8, I'd have taken it in a heartbeat. But yet here we are. You know, Houston had that heartbreaker against Birmingham, and I just don't think they recovered. You know, but they are definitely playing better football. Arlington in the number 5 spot there. Those are your 4 eliminated teams. The teams that are going to the playoffs to be played in St. Louis and Birmingham. He's got Birmingham in 4th, St. Louis in 3rd. I think the top 4 he has the same, if I'm not correct, from last week.
Yes, they didn't.
And so the top 4
they all won, so they all did their job.
Yeah, they all did their job. Well, Birmingham didn't win, but I mean by proxy, it keeps them up there. You know, 2 big games left. You know, you got Birmingham, Michigan this week, and then DC, St. Louis week 10. So I'm sure the power rankings are going to shift one way or the other.
And just looking at Arlington there, I mean, folks, those who have heard me from the watching since the beginning of the season, that was my theoretical futures pick. Almost when we talked about who had the best odds and things, and I was really heavy in Arlington, but just to see it all just go off of that one play, just you saw it up in smoke, boom, yikes, psych, I am out of here, and that was just a dagger, and that was just upsetting to watch, and I was disbelief.
The defense, I'm telling you, the defense
for
has
those who
failed
track from last week, the two essential shifts in the power rankings from week 8 are essentially Arlington and Houston and Memphis and San Antonio. Obviously, Memphis pulling away the late overtime win. And then I think arguably you could say Arlington played DC better than we obviously played Michigan. So by rights, they deserve a nod. That's why they're at 5. So.
Yeah, I'm guessing. So that are the power rankings. Let's take a look at the passing leaders for through week 8. Teamu at 1990. Perez, Perkins, McClendon, they got a late start. They're late to the party. So I would say, Perkins and McClendon, their 1342 and 1039 might be even more impressive just because they were late to the party. But as it stands, yeah, Mike.
Jordan Teamu stake his claim. I'm MVP. We have all the last couple of weeks was the Bryce Perkins show. Watching Jordan Teamu out there, and he's running and yelling and into the end zone, and we got a little race here for the last couple of weeks here.
Here's what I will say. I was firmly in Bryce Perkins' camp until this week, and now I'm a toss-up, and I'll tell you why. You have to be present to win the MVP.
Yep.
It's not Perkins' fault. No fault of his.
He was nursing an ankle injury.
Yep, but you have to be present to win the MVP. And Teamu has been present, and he's been able to do a lot of good things. But so I'm kind of bouncing. I was firmly in Perkins' camp, but now I'm kind of bouncing. But those are your passing leaders through week 8. Receiving leaders, Deion Kane, monster game against St. Louis. He is definitely a dude. Followed closely by Roland, DC, Adams, Memphis, Mariner. I mean, that's a close race. It might be the closest race. And then you got a tight end. I love tight ends. You'll never see a St. Louis tight end on this list, but there's an Arlington Renegade tight end right there.
They're out on the field, though.
Yeah, they are. They are. That's for sure. Let's see. We got the MVP power rankings. As you can see, Jordan Teamu is at the top there. Followed by Perkins, followed by the self-proclaimed King of Spring, maybe.
I don't know why he's on.
Jacob Sailors, the Battlehawks in 4th.
It's a 2-horse battle right now.
It's a 2-horse battle, and I appreciate the fact that they have Sailors in 4th, but we've had this debate in the NFL during the NFL season. There's no need to have this debate during the UFL season. The MVP has come down to the quarterbacks. No matter how great Derrick Henry was, no matter how great Saquon Barkley was, it's turned into a quarterback award. So this is a 2-team race. It's Teamu and it's Perkins. End of story. No matter how much we may or may not like it. Quickly on the
and the legals call. They'll announce the MVP at the end of the regular season. Now I get it; it's still conference championship weekend. NFL should go back to doing the same thing. I want to know who the league MVP is or the regular season MVP is before the playoffs, please, so that it just adds more to. Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah, there's the week 8 TV ratings, viewership. Again, I'm so far past those types of things. I just enjoy the football.
There it is.
That kind of gives you where everything's sat.
Watching.
Yep, just keep watching. It's good football. If you're not watching, you're missing out. I promise you that.
I was disappointed though that they did pull the plug on. I mean, could this also be a blessing in disguise? Those who may have not watched the UFL, but they're tuning in for NBA. They see this close game, then that gets plucked from them, and I'm sure some were like, whoa, wait a minute, going from that shootout close game to Stephen A. Smith.
And
All respect to Stephen A. Smith, but
it's not like, I mean, I realize the playoffs obviously get better ratings than regular season NBA, because I haven't watched a regular season NBA game for, well, probably since about '98. But you guys can deduce why or when that happened. But I mean, playoff basketball does still get ratings, so I guess that's kind of why the decision was made.
I would say, I think, Mike, you mentioned this, I want to say last week, and I think every fan out there who's a follower of the league, even if you're just kind of a casual viewer, it makes a difference, person by person. Even if you got a busy weekend and you're not able to maybe actively sit on the couch for 60 straight minutes and watch the game, turn the TV on and let the game roll. You're helping the viewership and the broadcast metrics. And as we know, with so many struggles with multiple teams and having full houses or bountiful attendance, right now, that is probably the league's largest revenue stream is through broadcast deals that they have in place. So while it's corny and I hate, leaning or giving credence to the TV side of things, because I'm a purist fan. I want to be there in the pouring down rain and the sweat your butt off heat. For those of you who can't make it or just choose to support via TV streaming, turn it on, even if you can't watch it the whole game. You're doing the league. You are financially helping the league.
Right. Well, and the thing of it is, the UFL is a marriage of the XFL and the USFL. Let's face it, the USFL did not have a lot of fans in the stands. I can remember watching USFL games where there's like 325 people in the stands. Eventually, obviously, that's what they want to work towards. Right. But we all know that the TV side of it is more important.
For sure.
So sitting there and bagging on, I don't care, Birmingham, or bagging on Houston because, oh my God, they only had 6,000 people. Listen, it's irrelevant at this point. It's irrelevant. Yeah. It'll take them some time. They'll try to work on that, but the TV really is the most important part of it. But I digress. We've gone through that multiple times. If I don't keep this rolling, man, and we go till 11 o'clock, Ed's going to kill me, even though he doesn't feel very good. So we're going to make this quick.
Yep,
I'm going to give each of you about a minute on this, and then I'm going to take 6. But I'm going to give each one of you a minute. All right? Mike, you're going to be on the clock as soon as I pop this up. Here we go. And go.
All right, so I believe the 4 playoff teams should proceed the rest of the season. As far as how they should proceed. Birmingham, Michigan. You got to play best on best. All right, let's evaluate ourselves. Sharpen all things. Go into this championship game. Let's see it. Let's bring it your best. And then evaluate, make adjustments. As for the other game, DC and St. Louis, I think sometimes you just want to run some plays just for them to take some, have some gamesmanship in this one. Have them take some time in practice to go over swing and gate for extra point, or whatever the case. So have a little fun with it. Run some things like, hey, let's just draw something up, run it around. So they got to go take time during the practice week to go over it. So that's how I would approach it. Both sides.
KJ.
For me, I'd say I'll keep it to one-liners essentially for each team. For Birmingham, keep playing 4 quarters of football. Just as Coach Skip Holtz has said, that's the trademark component of that squad and why they've been so successful for so long, both this season and long before. I think they'll have that much greater success if they can just keep playing a full 4 quarters of football. For Michigan, I would say it comes down to continuing to be potent in both the air and on the ground. They're a great team. I think they're on the rise, and I don't see any reason why they can't make it all the way to the dance if they play their cards right and just don't give up. For DC, if I said DC before I meant Michigan, I apologize. For DC, I would say it's fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. As I previously alluded to, the penalties are one of their biggest Achilles heels. They're a sloppy team, but they're a gritty team, and they get the job done a lot of times. But in the playoffs, man, there's no room for errors. There's no room for mistakes. And the clutch factor definitely is paramount for every team playing. So they've got to keep that up, in my opinion. For St. Louis, man, open up your deck of cards. You've got 2 weeks here to do whatever the heck you want, and it's not going to affect anything in the playoff race in round one. As Eric mentioned, you have a QB room with other ample QBs. I'm biased. I'm a Silvers guy, being an old Roughnecks fan, but I think that dude can sling it. And if you don't at least give him a shot to see how he compares with Duggan, I think you're shortchanging yourself and shooting yourself in the foot. So that's my call for every team.
I think it boils down to this. The Michigan-Birmingham game, if Michigan wins, Week 10 is irrelevant to everybody. Week 10 will be a nothing burger for both those teams. If Birmingham wins, I mean, you still got to play it. That would make them both 6-3. Birmingham tanks the last week. Michigan wins. They're 7-3. Birmingham 6-4. So if Michigan wins, it's a tank job. Week 10 doesn't matter. If Birmingham wins, again, how important is winning the USFL conference? So I think that's how they'll determine that. But again, if Michigan wins, it's a nothing burger, and then those games you'll see a lot of different guys. On the flip side of it, I think these last 2 weeks are way more important for St. Louis, especially starting with this San Antonio game. They have to get some semblance of a passing game. They have to get Duggan right to your point, KJ. They have to at least get to that 150, 160-yard threshold. They have to. Because you mix in 160 passing yards with 160 rushing yards, you've got balance, and you don't know which direction. But you can't go 173 against Birmingham and pass for 110. That's just, and take 30 of those out on one completion to Butler. So I think these last 2 weeks are way more important to St. Louis to get right in the passing game and get some of those things figured out than it is necessarily to DC. And again, both teams are going to have to determine how important is winning the XFL conference than going into the XFL championship game healthy, ready to go, those types of things.
I don't disagree. Champion.
Yes, yeah. And on the flip side, what you just said, you also don't want to lose momentum either. Michigan doesn't want to tank this. Michigan doesn't want to tank this. Say, well, hey, we're gonna make sure we get healthy. Like you said, Speaks is coming. We're gonna get healthy. Well, then you might inadvertently kill yourself.
Yeah.
And then go into the USFL championship game a little flat, and you definitely don't want to do that against Birmingham. So, while yes, the teams are set, I still think there's a lot to play for, and there's for different reasons for each team. So I think we're still going to see some pretty good games, regardless of what happens. I don't think you're going to see, unless Michigan wins on the USFL side, you're not going to see tanking games from anybody. And let's face it, St. Louis and DC don't like each other. I can't see either team tanking that game anyway. But, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, let's get to the games. I want to beat Ed's time. Ed usually always goes to 2:20. That gives us 22 minutes, so we're going to be way ahead of that. Let's look at the first game and get our picks. We'll put the picks up at the end just to make sure we get Ed's in there. St. Louis.
Before, but we'll see. Let's burn through them.
Yeah, St. Louis 6-2 at San Antonio 1-7. It's another away home game for St. Louis. And St. Louis is favored by 8. KJ, who you got?
I mean, I got to stick with the Battlehawks on this one just based on who they're playing. Barring a miraculous, St. Louis is lazy and San Antonio pulls off a DC-like upset again, I just don't see this coming out their way. So and the Battlehawks are at home, so you know how that goes.
Right. Mike?
And to save some time, I'm just going to go Battlehawks.
Yeah, I'm going to go Battlehawks, and I would even take the points. San Antonio at this point, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Like I said, they could win, but at this point, I got to take the Battlehawks, and I'm sure Ed took the Battlehawks as well. All right, next game on Saturday, be the first game on Saturday. Arlington 3-5 at Memphis 2-6. Arlington is a 4-point favorite. I'll start with you, Mike.
I'm going Memphis here. I believe in what Coach Turner has to say about his team being a tough team. I'm a buyer of Memphis right now. So yeah, even though they are out of the playoffs, they are definitely not a defeated team. They're going to still play to win. They're going to take somebody with them, if it's Arlington or the next opponent. They're just going to let them remember that you remember Memphis last time you played the Showboat. So give me Memphis here. I don't even know if I want to call an upset right now based on what I saw from Arlington. So. Give me Memphis. Maybe it goes to overtime. So,
yeah,
I would say, despite, and to Mike's point, I think this is probably the one game of the four that I would be willing to concede has the highest likelihood of going backwards on me for my pick. I do think it's good that Coach Turner's given them a chance to play every QB in the room, if you will. I think that lack of continuity and flow as a team, a cohesive unit, is going to bode poorly for them over the long haul of the game, and Arlington is going to come away with the win. So that's how I'm leaning.
I, too, am taking Arlington. I just feel like, I think offensively Arlington is better. And if this goes into overtime, I want to change my pick, Mike. But if it don't go to overtime, Arlington's going to win this game. So. And I would even take the points as well. Second game on Saturday, the big one. The big one, I'm sure Mike knows which one this is. 6-2 Michigan at 5-3 Birmingham. Michigan is a 1.5 favorite at Birmingham. I'll go first. I'm going to say the same thing that I said in week 2. And that is Michigan must win this game to get the Birmingham monkey off of their back. Period. End of story. So I'm going to take Michigan. They burn me again, Mike. I'm coming to Michigan. I'm going to choke you out. Taking Michigan. We know who Mike has, KJ, so I'm going to go to you. Who you got?
I'm going the Michigan route as well. I think this is such a unique lie with the scheduling at the end of the season here, and also knowing Michigan's history with Birmingham. Honestly, personally for me, in my opinion, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. And I say that to say that if they win this game, it just gives Skip Holtz that much more film on them to capitalize and come back with the upset in the playoffs. But on the flip side, if they were to lose this game, I'd say they have zero chance of winning in the playoffs against the Stallions. And they also are compoundedly exposed from a confidence standpoint, not from losing out in the playoff slot, but them losing against Birmingham just establishes more of a chink in the armor, so to speak, for Houston to come in week 10 and go, gotcha, 1-2 punch, make you feel like real crap going into the final game. So I think they have to win this game, I think, even to have a chance at winning in the playoffs. And that's a very far-reaching claim, but I think there's a lot of justification to it based on what we've seen historically for the Panthers.
Well, I've been dereliction of my duties. Big Mike took Birmingham. Eric took Birmingham.
Look at Eric's last comment there. Yeah, and if Birmingham wins, and it's just all that noise, just goes away. Poof.
Yep.
So
Big Mike took Memphis. Eric took Memphis. Mike, you got John took Arlington, and it was a clean sweep for St. Louis. So you're not alone, Mike, when it comes to Memphis as well.
Yeah, and I may even so Memphis. Yeah, I mean I've seen a lot of Memphis comments here, and then I may go to the draft. I mean the the watch party to watch this game here. This is a big deal, Michigan at Birmingham. I may drive down to Troy, Michigan, and attend the watch party.
Oh, that would be fun. All right, final game on the docket Sunday has 6-2 DC at 3-5 Houston. DC is a 3-point favorite. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. DC,
right.
I'll take DC and the points here. Again, what I said against the Michigan game, I think Houston spent, as I mentioned earlier in the show, admirable effort, admirable to make it a season. They fought as long as they could and as hard as they could, and I think now it's just getting filmed. Obviously, you want to play hard, but I think DC has a lot of momentum behind. Their locker room is very close together. They're not, going after each other as we may have heard with Houston's locker room after the game against Birmingham. So very connected in DC. It's a fun roster. The fans rally behind this team, and they have. But I think they're going to roll Houston.
I'll let KJ have the floor last since it's his team.
Well, I don't have the privilege of rooting for a team on the come up as Mr. Palco does. I too,
we've been up.
I too am a captain who will go down with his ship in glorious battle against all odds. And I'm also making a play for not last place in the four of us rankings with regards to season picks. So I kind of have
go there.
Between him and I, it's the Houston game and the Memphis Arlington game. And parroting his two picks, if you will. But yeah, I think Houston has a chance to win it. If San Antonio can do it and we can beat them by a greater margin than Birmingham does, I think we have a chance to pull off the upset. Obviously, a lot of stuff goes into that, and it has had to be a light out performance by Houston. But the potential and ability is there, I think, especially being at home and being our last home game of the season. I've already heard enough from fellow fans that I think our turnout this game will probably be the best it's been all season. And I don't just say that to say it, but I think it's actually true. I've heard a lot of rumblings of added fans buying extra tickets, getting family members and friends to attend. So I think the rig will be extra filled, more so at least than it has the past 4 weeks or 4 home games we've had.
Well, I do agree with Big Mike here. DC does not have to win.
Yep.
This is probably, the one game, the San Antonio-St. Louis game, they don't have to win. St. Louis does not have to win that. And DC does not have to win this game to still win the conference. With that said, I still believe DC is going to win, but I think Houston's still going to play hard. I really have been impressed with CJ this year. He's kept him in it. I go back to that Birmingham game as a backbreaker, but I think Houston's going to come out and play. Chisholm, Mims, all those guys, they're going to come out and play hard.
They can play. Get to 5-5.
Absolutely. Their season. I mean, KJ, if I told you Houston was 5-5 at the end of the year, what would you have told me at the beginning of the year?
I would have been like optimistic hope met, because that's literally what I had as my threshold for expectation this season.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's still a chance there, but with that said, I will take DC in the points. Let me get to my thing. I think I have our picks. I want to make sure my picks are right anyway. They are correct. I actually got them right without really paying attention to them. So Ed and I are the same. Gosh, I should have went different than Ed. I see.
What game would you have gone differently on though? There's a couple. We saw and appreciate all those commenting, following along with the picks.
Yes.
Those are fun to read too. So, which one? I've seen you could pick probably 2 games out of if you could change one.
If I was going to change one, which I can't now, if I was going to change one, I would change my Arlington pick to Memphis.
Same. Yep. Same. I agree with it.
If I could change one.
Closest game. I think you're going to have you might have another overtime shootout, Mike. Honestly, you could all be surprised.
If I could change one game, it would be the Arlington to Memphis. Simply because I do think that is, I would say that is the biggest toss-up game of the week, and then I would say the next toss-up game.
And for
obviously the Birmingham Michigan game is the huge game of the week. I'm not, and that is a toss-up. But I would say I'm not ruling out Houston. Birmingham could easily win, and we're all wrong there, or Michigan could easily win, and we're all right. Arlington could easily win. Memphis could easily win.
Mark my words, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, especially to the Mia Panther Pride folks that we're close friends of. But if Michigan does not win this game, they will not win in the playoffs. I guarantee that. It's just a matter of fact.
I kind of tend to agree with you, KJ. I think that if Michigan wins this game,
even if Etling took the majority of the reps,
I don't care who's in.
I don't either.
Bryson is their best player, but it's just a matter of schematics. You lose this game, you get exposed against Houston week 10, a game you definitely don't have to win. And then if you lose that game, your confidence is shot. Not to mention, like I said, that if they lose, it's just less ammunition to go back into Birmingham a second time. As Eric pointed out, you have the history's not on your side, the venue you're playing in's not on your side. It's a road game. I mean, the cards are literally stacked against Michigan. So they have to start making a precedent of we can beat the odds. And that's what you do this week.
And what I want to see as a Michigan fan is them to win, get that 1 seed. Then best thing you can make out of the situation with not having Field, wear your home jersey at their place and be like, this is our house.
Right. But I do agree with you, KJ. Michigan needs to send a message here.
Yep.
This is a mental battle game.
Yes, correct. They need to send a message to Birmingham like, hey, this ain't the Michigan that you've beat in the like we've turned the corner. Like you're gonna have to bring it.
To speak to the essential, I guess, polar ends of things. Even if Michigan were to lose this game, and then go into the playoffs, even if they were to say, let's say, ironically have a Houston-like performance in the first half of the playoff round, I guarantee you the thoroughbred Stallions would come back and go, you know what? We've been here before. We ain't scared, because there's no strikeout mental factor in that matchup. They have to win this week.
And by losing this game, that puts just that little more added pressure on Michigan.
You're choking again.
Here we go again.
Yes.
Any little thing, they lose this game, then any little adversity in that championship game, and in the minds of some of the Michigan players, it's like, oh God, here we go again.
Right.
But if they win this game, now maybe some of those things don't creep in there. So this is, to me, this is a way bigger game for Michigan. Not that the Birmingham fans don't want to win it, and the players don't want to win it, and Coach Holtz doesn't want to win it, but this is a way bigger game for Michigan. Because they had an opportunity in the second week, and they just laid an egg.
Right.
Now they've got to show we are for real. We are number one in the power rankings for a reason. Like, they have to show those things to Birmingham. So maybe it puts a little doubt in Birmingham's mind.
Or not
they
the
don't.
UFL Superman that have a kryptonite. We actually
correct.
And I'm surprised I haven't mentioned it in the show, but this is on X, or Twitter. There was a poll, I think from a Birmingham Stallions page. They have 4 quarterbacks, folks, that they have a quarterback decision to make here. Where do you go? You got always seems to be what you would assume would be the pick, Alex Magoo. He and Skip Holtz, they've won. What a journey those guys have been on together. But, where was he? Do you play it with that rust factor? You have Case Cookus, strong talent, he's a little, he throws the ball, you just aren't sure about some passes he makes. He tries maybe to do a little too much, but then you have Matt
Smith.
Corral.
Well,
And then Jamar. So Jamar won the poll. The Birmingham Stallions are right behind Jamar. They're trailing back the Birmingham Stallions 2022.
If Birmingham goes with anybody at Smith at this point, I feel like that's kind of desperation. If they go to Magoo, I mean, let's face it, Magoo looked real rusty in week 1.
You got Breland Speaks back at edge for.
But I mean, he looked real rusty in week 1. He looked very, very off. You know, Cookus, I think, is still seeing ghosts from his Memphis days. You know, if they go away from Smith, and I'm not saying Matt Corral can't do it, but I just feel like, you know, Smith is your guy, ride or die right now.
He knows the offense.
Ride or die. Mistakes, good, bad, but Smith is your guy.
And what a story! And what a story!
He has a least amount of film on him. Like, despite the errors that were made in the St. Louis game, a coach coming in, I mean, you can't necessarily depend on 2022 film. It's just not reliable.
That's correct.
And I don't know how many of these coaches from Michigan know about playing Jamar Smith.
Right. Yeah, because in week 2, it was Magoo and then it was Corral, correct?
Yes, man. Yep.
Now, would you play Jamar though? I mean, I would still go ahead and play Jamar because how huge of a game this is, and it's both sides too. Birmingham does not want to let Michigan win.
No,
they're not going to roll over. These guys are going blow for blow this Saturday, 1:00.
This game is going to be ones versus ones.
Yep.
However, Coach Holtz and however Coach Nolan sees it, this is going to be ones versus ones.
And I wish we had a drumline segment for it. I put in our little chat that I think this is, you saw some signings here. So a little arms race going on between, Michigan and Birmingham here. So it's war. This is a big deal. Big deal. And it is a rivalry. These guys are, both these teams, fan bases, the names, the uniforms ish. 1983. So this is like back to, and I hope they capitalize on the history of this thing. I'm a football history person, and I hope there's more people that appreciate the history of just pro football in general. And we get to see some clips throughout the game, just the rivalry. Michigan's won the first one. I believe that was it. You know, that's Birmingham had the upper hand throughout the whole thing. So is it still a rivalry? You could say, if it's not a rivalry, if it's one-sided, but when you get, it's happened with Memphis too, with Birmingham. They're very familiar about getting, taken to the woodshed by Birmingham. So it's I can't wait for kickoff. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, as far as the UFL goes, it's been a 2-horse race in the USFL side so far.
Yep, and here we are.
I think Houston is on the up, but for right now, it's been a 2-horse race.
It's like Colts Patriots right here.
Yeah. So we are still under 220. I'm not going to let you talk anymore, Mike. I'm not going to let you run me over 220. So does anybody else have a parting shot? I'll give you 30 seconds if you have a parting shot. KJ, parting shot. Anything.
Stanley Cup Finals. Let's go, baby. Big game.
All right. Mike?
Hey, let's go, Michigan. USFL, this is what it's all about right here. So let's put the best on the line, and let's best have at it.
Okay, my parting shot is go Raptors baseball. Go Raptors baseball.
There you go.
All right, that's what my summer will be spent doing. So with that said, thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure and catch us on Facebook, YouTube, or X. Give us a like on all those. Give us a follow. And as always, this was episode number 45.
Watch the games.
Watch the games, but we've got a few more episodes to go, a little more of the season to go with some big games coming up. And we will for sure, on the bottom line, be covering it every single week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. I won't be. You guys will be. So with that said, see you next week.
And that's the bottom line.